I built a beautiful house for my parents, but instead of thanking me, they kicked me out and moved in. This is the true story of how the house that was meant to bring us together almost destroyed me. We're so glad you're here. Sit back, relax, and enjoy every moment of this inspiring story. Please hit the subscribe button and join our family. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Johnson, and this story is not easy for me to tell. Sometimes, when life turns against you, wonder if you are cursed, or if love is simply not enough. I grew up in a small African town, where dreams were bigger than our houses, and hope was stronger than food. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, were hardworking, but poverty was like a shadow that never left us. As a little girl, I used to sit outside our small, leaking mud house, watching other children walk to school in neat uniforms while mine were always torn. I promised myself that one day, I would make things better, not just for me, but for my family too. I believed education was the golden key. So, I worked hard. I studied under candlelight, borrowed books from neighbors, and sometimes even went hungry just to keep up. My dream was simple: to give my parents the life they never had. Years passed, and God answered my prayers. I finished university with the highest grades in my class. I got a job in the city with an international company. Suddenly, the girl who used to wear torn clothes was now wearing suits and heels. The first thing I did with my first big paycheck was to send money home. My parents were so proud of me. My father called me our shining star, and my mother told everyone in the village that their daughter had made it. But my biggest dream was still waiting. I wanted to build them a house. The day I drew the first sketch of that house on a piece of paper, my heart was full. It wasn't going to be a mansion, but it would have electricity, running water, and strong walls. It would be a place where my parents could live without fear of rain dripping through the roof. I remember standing in front of the land I had bought. I closed my eyes and imagined the laughter of children in the compound, the smell of roasted corn in the evening, and my parents sitting on the veranda, smiling proudly. I whispered to myself, one day, this house will be their castle, and I will be the daughter who gave them a kingdom. I worked day and night, saving every coin, cutting my personal expenses, even skipping vacations and luxuries, just to see that house rise from the ground. By the time the foundation was laid, neighbors were already calling me the miracle daughter. But little did I know, this dream, this house that I thought would unite us forever, would become the very thing that tore us apart. When I returned to the village to start the building project, the entire community gathered. Children ran around shouting, "Sarah is back." My parents were glowing with pride. My father's eyes sparkled as if he had won a lottery. My mother tied her best wrapper and cooked a feast for everyone. The masons, bricklayers, and carpenters all stood ready. I paid them their advance and said with a smile, "This house is not just for my parents, it's for all of us. A place where our family can always come together." The first brick was laid, and my mother cried. She held my hand tightly and whispered, "May God bless you, Sarah. May you never lack." Those words gave me strength. Week after week, I traveled between the city and the village, supervising the building. Each time I came home, I saw walls rising, windows being fitted, and the dream taking shape. Neighbors started calling me the angel daughter. Some even told their own children to be like Sarah. The house became a symbol of hope, not just for us, but for everyone around. What I didn't know was that sometimes, when you shine too brightly, even the ones closest to you may start to see your light as a threat. 2 years later, the house stood tall and proud. Painted cream and brown, with a red roof that shone under the sun, it was the most beautiful house in our community. It had 3 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen with modern fittings, and bathrooms with running water. I even installed solar panels so my parents would never have to worry about light. On the day of the housewarming, the entire village gathered. People danced, drummers beat their drums, and my parents couldn't stop smiling. My mother wore a gold necklace I had bought her, and my father walked around as though he was 10 years younger. I handed them the keys and said, "This is your home." A gift from my heart. Tears rolled down my mother's cheeks. My father hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs would break. That night, as I lay in one of the rooms, I thought, finally, I have repaid them for all their sacrifices. I felt fulfilled, but sometimes, life has a way of turning joy into pain. Everything was perfect. My parents moved into the new house, and I continued living in the city, visiting them often. When I came home one weekend, I noticed my mother was cold towards me. She barely spoke, and when she did, her words carried hidden bitterness. "Sarah, you are too bossy. You act like this house is yours," she said one morning while I was arranging the sitting room. I was shocked. "But Mama, I built this house for you." She sighed and muttered, "We are the ones living here, not you. Stop behaving like you are the owner." Her words stung me like a slap. My father, too, became distant. He no longer called me our shining star. Instead, he started complaining about small things. The color of the curtains, the design of the kitchen, even the way I spoke to neighbors. The love I once felt from them started turning into silent tension. I told myself, maybe they are just stressed. Maybe they will come around. But deep down, I was scared. Every time I came home, I noticed something new. My clothes that I had left in the wardrobe were removed. My favorite chair in the sitting room was taken away. Even my small framed photo in the hallway had been replaced with a big picture of my parents. One evening, when I tried to sleep in my old room, my father knocked and said, "Sarah, you should stay in the guest room. This is now your mother's prayer room." I was shocked. "Papa, this used to be my room. Where will I keep my things?" He just sighed. "Sarah, you have a place in the city. Don't act like you're homeless." That night, I cried quietly. I realized the house I had built was no longer mine in any way, it was theirs completely. But still, I tried to hold on. I told myself, it's fine. As long as they're comfortable, my sacrifice is worth it. I didn't know the worst was yet to come. Soon, whispers started spreading in the village. Neighbors began looking at me strangely when I visited. Some even asked me odd questions like, "Sarah, why don't you stay in the house you built?" I brushed it off, but the whispers grew louder. Then one evening, my childhood friend Grace told me the truth. "Sarah," she said gently, "people are saying your parents told them you're too proud. They say you're trying to control them with your money. Some even say you're cursed because no man has married you yet." I froze. My own parents, spreading such things. Grace placed a hand on mine. "I didn't want to tell you, but you need to know. They're painting you as a proud daughter who only built the house to show off." Her words broke me. I had worked, sweated, and sacrificed for love. And now, that love was being twisted into poison. I felt like a stranger in my own family. One Saturday, I decided to surprise my parents with foodstuffs and gifts from the city. I bought bags of rice, oil, and even new clothes for them. When I arrived at the gate of the house I built, I was stunned. The lock had been changed. I knocked. My mother opened the door slightly, looked at me coldly, and said, "Sarah, why didn't you call before coming? We don't want disturbances." I blinked in shock. "Disturbances? Mama, it's me, your daughter." She looked me in the eye and said words that cut my soul. "You have your life in the city. Let us have our peace here." Before I could speak, she shut the door. I stood there, holding the heavy bags of food, my heart breaking. Neighbors peeked through their windows. Some shook their heads. Others just whispered. That was the day I realized, my parents had pushed me out of the house I built with my own sweat. Back in my small city apartment, I cried for nights without sleep. My pillow was wet with tears, my chest heavy with pain. How could the people I loved most betray me? How could the house I built with love become my greatest sorrow? I stopped eating well. At work, my friends noticed I was pale and withdrawn. Michael asked me, "Sarah, what's wrong? You don't smile anymore." I just shook my head. How could I explain that my own parents had turned against me? Some nights, I wanted to take the first bus to the village, storm the house, and demand answers. But then I remembered their cold eyes and cruel words. Instead, I prayed. I begged God to heal my heart and show me why this was happening. And slowly, I began to realize something. Maybe the house was never truly for them. Maybe it was a test for me. One Sunday, after church, I met an older woman named Aunt Rebecca. She was kind and had a voice that carried wisdom. She looked at me and said, "Child, I see pain in your eyes. What is troubling you?" For the first time, I opened my heart and told her everything. From the first brick to the day my parents shut me out. She listened quietly, then smiled sadly. "Sarah," she said, "sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But remember this, your worth is not tied to their acceptance. You gave them a gift from love. What they do with it is between them and God. Her words washed over me like healing rain. For the first time in months, I felt light again. I realized I couldn't let bitterness destroy me. I had to live my life, not as a victim, but as a survivor. That day, I stood taller. After that meeting with Aunt Rebecca, I began to see life differently. I realized I had been holding on too tightly to people who no longer held me close. I had built the house for my parents, but perhaps it was time to build something for myself. I threw myself into work again. My boss noticed my renewed energy and gave me bigger projects. Soon, I was traveling to other cities, speaking at conferences, and meeting new people. But deep inside, the scar was still there. Every time I passed a construction site, I felt that old ache. Every time I saw a daughter hugging her mother, I felt the wound reopen. Still, I kept moving. Because I knew if I stopped, the pain would swallow me. One day, at a company event, I met Daniel, a soft-spoken man with kind eyes. He was a project manager from another branch. We got talking, and before I knew it, hours had passed. He was different from anyone I had ever met, patient, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in my story. After a few months of friendship, he asked me out for dinner. "Sarah," he said nervously, "I know you've been through pain, but I want to be part of your healing. Will you let me?" My heart raced. No man had ever spoken to me like that. I was scared, but I saw sincerity in his eyes. I whispered, "Yes." For the first time in years, I felt hope and love. Just as I was beginning to feel happiness again, I received a call from the village. It was my father. "Sarah," he said weakly, "your mother is sick. She has been asking for you." My heart sank. Despite everything, she was still my mother. I took the next bus home. When I entered the house, I saw her lying on the couch, pale and weak. For the first time, she looked at me with soft eyes. "Sarah," she whispered, "forgive me." Tears filled my eyes. All the pain melted away in that moment. I held her hand and said, "Mama, I already forgave you." Sometimes, life waits until someone is broken before it teaches them humility. Over the next weeks, I stayed in the village, helping take care of my mother. I cooked, cleaned, and even paid for her hospital treatment. Slowly, her health improved. And with her healing, our relationship also began to heal. She confessed one evening, "Sarah, your father and I felt insecure. The house made us feel like you had taken our place. Instead of being grateful, we became jealous of our own daughter." I cried, but I understood. Sometimes love and pride clash in ways we don't expect. We hugged tightly, and for the first time in years, I felt like their daughter again. After weeks in the village, I returned to the city. Daniel was waiting. "Sarah," he said, "I missed you. But I'm glad you chose to take care of your family. That shows the kind of woman you are." I smiled. He understood me in a way few people ever did. Our relationship grew stronger. He met my friends, took me to meet his colleagues, and always treated me with respect. One day, he surprised me with flowers and asked, "Sarah, will you let me walk this life with you?" I looked into his eyes and knew, this was the beginning of something new. When Daniel asked to meet my parents, I was nervous. After everything, would they accept him? We traveled together to the village. My parents received us politely but with some tension. Daniel, however, was calm and respectful. He helped my father carry his chair outside, greeted my mother warmly, and even offered to fix a leaking tap in the kitchen. By the end of the weekend, my parents were smiling. My mother whispered to me, "Sarah, this man is good. Don't let him go." For once, I felt my family and my heart were at peace together. Months later, Daniel planned a surprise. He took me to a quiet garden with flowers blooming all around. Then he knelt down, holding a small box. "Sarah Johnson," he said with a trembling voice, "will you marry me?" I gasped, covering my mouth with my hands. Tears filled my eyes. "Yes, Daniel, yes." He slipped the ring on my finger as people around clapped. For the first time in my life, I felt like all the pain, all the rejection, all the tears had led me to this beautiful moment. Our wedding was simple but beautiful. Friends, family, and colleagues gathered. My parents, now softer and kinder, sat in the front row, smiling proudly. As Daniel and I exchanged vows, I felt my heart bursting. This time, I wasn't giving away my sweat to people who didn't value it. I was giving my love to a man who truly cherished me. The music played, people danced, and laughter filled the hall. I whispered to Daniel, "This is the happiest day of my life." He smiled and replied, "It's only the beginning." After marriage, Daniel stood by me at every step, together, and designed a home filled with love. This is our story, our journey, our safe place. I wasn't losing anything. I was gaining everything. Now, as I sit in my own home, writing this story, I think back to everything that happened. The house I built for my parents became the reason they pushed me away. But if I had not gone through that pain, I might never have found the strength to live for myself. I learned something important. Sometimes, the gifts you give are not always appreciated. But that doesn't mean you stop giving. It means you learn to give wisely. My parents and I are now on better terms. We still have scars, but there is healing too. And with Daniel by my side, I know I can face anything. So, to anyone listening to my story, I say this. Never let rejection define you. Your value is not in what others think, but in who you truly are. This is the story of how the house that broke my heart eventually led me to a new life of love, peace, and strength. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African tales that will touch your heart. See you in the next story. I love you all. Bye.